I never thought a Sunday family lunch could become a turning point in my life. But that's exactly what happened on the day when Valentina Petrovna, my mother-in-law, decided to check what I really thought about her. I had only been married to Seryozha for 6 months, and my relationship with his mother was, let's say, complicated. Valentina Petrovna was a domineering woman, used to her opinion being the law in the family. She had raised her son alone after her husband's death and seemed to consider any woman next to him a potential threat to her authority. "Lena, dear, sit here next to me," she said, pointing to a seat beside her at the large dining table. Her voice sounded overly sweet, something that always set me on edge. The whole family had gathered at the table. Seryozha, his younger sister Olga with her husband, cousin Igor, and Aunt Zina. Sunday lunch at Valentina Petrovna's was a sacred ritual, one no one dared to skip. "Today I made your favorite borscht, Seryozha," my mother-in-law announced, ladling the fragrant broth into bowls. "Your grandmother's recipe, remember?" Seryozha smiled and nodded. I noticed how his expression softened. He truly loved his mother despite all her quirks. "And for little Lenotchka, I've added a special seasoning," Valentina Petrovna continued with a wink. "They say it helps you better appreciate the taste." Something in her tone made me wary, but I just smiled politely. In these past 6 months, I had learned to read between the lines of almost everything she said. As everyone took their seats and began lively chatter about the latest family news, I noticed something odd. Thinking no one was watching, Valentina Petrovna quickly poured something from a small vial straight into my bowl of borscht. The movement was so swift and discreet that my breath caught. My heart began to race. What was it? Poison? Laxative? Sleeping powder? My mind raced with the wildest possibilities. I tried to remain calm, though my hands betrayed me, trembling slightly. "Valentina Petrovna, may I help pass the bread?" I asked, standing up. "Of course, dear," she replied with that same sickly sweet smile. While I walked around the table distributing sliced bread, my mother-in-law got distracted by a conversation with Aunt Zina about the neighbor's latest gossip. This was my chance. Quickly and discreetly, I switched our bowls. My heart pounded so loudly, I was sure everyone could hear it. "Well, let's eat before it gets cold," Valentina Petrovna announced as she returned to the table. Lunch went on as usual. We discussed the latest news and shared plans for the week. Olga talked about problems at work. I ate my borscht mechanically, now her borscht, trying to guess what she had put in it and when it might start working. After about 20 minutes, I began to think all my suspicions had been for nothing. Maybe I had imagined it. Maybe it was just an ordinary spice. But then Valentina Petrovna suddenly stopped mid-sentence about the neighbor's cat and gave her bowl a strange look. "I'm feeling a little scattered today," she muttered, rubbing her temples. A few more minutes passed, and I noticed she was behaving more and more oddly. Her speech became unusually open and unrestrained. "You know, this borscht really did turn out special," she suddenly said. "I was so nervous making it. I kept thinking, what if it doesn't work out? What if everyone realizes I'm not as good a homemaker as I pretend to be?" Silence fell over the table. Everyone stared at her in surprise. She had never admitted to such doubts before. "Mama, you're saying strange things," Seryozha said carefully. "Everything you make always turns out great." "No, it doesn't," she exclaimed with an unusual burst of emotion. "I'm constantly afraid of messing up, especially in front of Lena. She's so young, beautiful, educated. And me? I'm just an old mother-in-law whose only skill is making borscht." I almost choked. Could it be that Valentina Petrovna, this iron lady, felt insecure because of me? Aunt Olga tried to calm her. "You're just tired." "Tired?" Valentina Petrovna cut her off. "Yes, I'm tired. Tired of pretending. Tired of acting like I don't care what Lena thinks of me. But I do care. I so badly want her to love me like a daughter. but I'm afraid she can't stand me. Tears welled up in my eyes. God, how wrong I had been about her. And you know what's the worst part? My mother-in-law continued, ignoring the awkward atmosphere. I'm afraid that if Seryozha has to choose between us, he'll choose her, and he'll be right. Because I really am an old, difficult mother-in-law. I'm jealous of her, can you believe it? At 55, jealous of my own son's wife. Igor coughed awkwardly. Aunt Zina's mouth fell open in shock, and Seryozha looked completely bewildered. Mama, where do you get these ideas? He asked. Do you think it's easy for me to watch him glowing with happiness next to her? Valentina Petrovna waved a hand in my direction. Of course I'm glad he has love, but why do I feel unnecessary because of it? Why does it seem to me that now I've become redundant to him? Valentina Petrovna, I couldn't stand it and started to speak, but she interrupted me. And I'm constantly afraid of saying the wrong thing. For example, today I wanted to find out what you really think of me. I bought this silly tincture from our neighbor, Maria Ivanovna. She says it's a truth serum that makes people say what they really feel. And then I understood what happened. I wanted to pour it into your borscht, I admitted, sobbing. I wanted to find out whether you respected me at least a little, or if you were simply tolerating me for Seryozha's sake. And now I realize what a fool I am. What a cruel, suspicious old woman. Silence hung over the table as everyone digested what they'd just heard, and suddenly I realized I couldn't stay silent any longer. Valen Petrovna, Gita, I said quietly. You drank that tincture yourself. What? She looked at me in surprise. When you were distracted talking. To Aunt Zina, I noticed you putting something in my plate. I got scared and swapped our plates. Silence fell again. Valentina Petrovna was slowly processing what had happened. So, I took it myself? Yes. And you know what? I'm glad it happened because now I can tell the truth, too. I took a deep breath and looked her in the eyes. You're right. I really was afraid of you. Afraid you wouldn't accept me. Afraid I wouldn't be worthy of your son. For the first month, I walked on eggshells trying to please you, say the right things, not upset you. But I never hated you. Valentina Petrovna listened without looking, away. Moreover, I continued, I even envied you. You seemed so strong, so self-assured. You raised a wonderful son, created a cozy home, had your own opinion on any matter, and I felt like a silly young girl who knew nothing. But you're educated. You have a job, whispered my mother-in-law. Do you think that makes me more confident in family matters? I still don't even know how to cook proper borscht. Every time I come to visit, I think, what if she asks for the recipe? What if she asks me to help in the kitchen? Under the table, Seryozha quietly took my hand. And also, I said, summoning courage, I really want you to know, I'm not going to take your son away from you. On the contrary, I dream that our family will become bigger and closer. That you'll truly become like a mother to me because my mom lives far away and I so miss a woman's warmth and wisdom. Valentina Petrovna dabbed her eyes with a handkerchief. Oh, Lenochka, what have we done to each other? She sniffled. We sit here, afraid of one another when we could have been friends long ago. We could have, I agreed, feeling tears streaming down my own cheeks. Mama Lena, Seryozha cut in, maybe enough crying already or the borscht will get completely cold. We laughed through our tears. And what was in that tincture anyway? Asked Olga. Who knows? Valentina Petrovna waved her hand. Maria Ivanovna says it's some herbs soaked in alcohol. Maybe it really does do something. Or maybe it's just self-suggestion. The main thing is it helped us finally speak heart to heart. You know what? I suddenly said. Let's clean up the kitchen together after lunch and you can teach me how to make real borscht. Of course, dear, my mother-in-law brightened. And not just borscht. I have so many recipes. Just promise me, no more truth serums. I laughed. I promise, she laughed too. Although, sometimes we could all use a bit more honesty. The rest of the lunch went in a completely different atmosphere. We spoke openly, laughed, shared plans. Valentina Petrovna told funny stories from Seryoja's childhood, and I talked about my work and hobbies. When we were alone in the kitchen, my mother-in-law suddenly hugged me. "Thank you, my dear," she whispered, "for not letting me make a mistake, and for being wiser than me." Wiser? I was surprised. I just got scared and acted on instinct. Exactly. You have the right instinct, which means you have a kind heart. We spent almost 2 hours in the kitchen. Valentina Petrovna really did share family recipes, and I told her about my cooking experiments. We discovered we had a lot in common. We both love reading, watching old movies, and tending flowers. "You know," she said while wiping the last plate, "maybe that silly tincture really was magical. Not because it makes people tell the truth, but because it gives you a reason to say it." I nodded. Indeed, sometimes we need a push to overcome our own fears and prejudices. Now, a few months after that memorable lunch, I can say, our relationship has completely changed. We've become true friends. She often calls me for advice, and I regularly come over to learn her homemaking wisdom. Seryoja is still surprised at how quickly his mother and I became close, and Valentina Petrovna and I just glance at each other and smile. We have our little secret, the secret of that magical tincture that helped us find each other. Though we've never repeated the truth serum experiment, it turned out that for sincerity, an open heart, and a willingness to understand, each other are more than enough.